Now, leadership and efficient good governance are at the base of economic and human development. And the lack of this is what the unconventional School of Politics, Policy and Governance, an initiative of the initiative of the Fixed Politics Initiative seeks to solve. It provides support to individuals with the knowledge needed for effective and progressive public leadership. Here with me in the studio, Alero Aida Otobo, co-chair, School of Politics, Policy and Governance, is here with me in the studio for us to make a sense of this. Nice to see you, Alero. Welcome.
Thank you very much.
And Happy New Year.
Same to you.
Great.
Thank you for having me on your show.
Great, you're welcome.
Thank you.
Now, when you talk about politics, people see politics from different perspectives.
Yes.
As it is. Yeah, in a simple way defined as politics is the concept of who gets what, when, and how, and all of that, and it's about conflict resolution too. But if we narrow it down to our experience as a country, Nigeria, talking about from independence or even pre-independence until now, a lot of people see it from different perspectives. But what do you think is the challenge with the Nigerian politics, especially when we're still trying to build, or it's taking so long to build a political culture?
Good question. Simple answer, leadership.
Great. Okay, politics,
leadership.
Okay.
So you said, what is the problem? And I think you've heard that, you hear execution, execution, execution.
Yes, exactly.
Leadership, leadership, leadership. That is the bane of politics in Nigeria. And with that leadership, your mind will immediately think of only leadership at the top. But leadership is at various different levels. So we also have a problem with leadership at the followership level. Oh,
leadership at the followership level. Please break it down. Let us understand this.
Let me explain.
Yes.
And I'll now tie it in with what fixed politics is all about before we now come to the School of Politics, Policy and Governance. What do I mean by that? One of our biggest problems in Nigeria is that the citizens in Nigeria do not know their rights, and they don't understand what political leaders should be doing for them, with them, and through them. So we have a problem where at elections, we don't show up. We think it's a public holiday. We sit at home. We don't realize the significance of that day.
So that is where it starts from?
Yes. So it doesn't quite start there. It's one of the, will I say, outcomes of poor leadership at the very top, where political leaders are not seen as servant leaders. They don't think they owe citizens anything. And so they come in and think that they are there to take care of their needs, their personal needs, their own family needs. And so we have a class of leaders that are very avaricious and, unfortunately, self-centered and selfish. I'm going to use some words here. And some of it will be a bit graphic because I want people to understand that we have a serious situation in our hands. And if we do not take steps to address those problems, we're going to keep putting plaster over a major wound that needs perhaps amputation. And that's what we've been doing. We haven't been facing the brutal facts. We haven't faced sufficiently what the issues are, and that we need to take some very serious, intentional steps to address those issues.
When we talk about, in fact, the statement you just made now resonates with a lot of people, because when we say we haven't really sat down to look inwardly to see what is really our problem and how do we fix it. But if we have to take that step, how should we be taking that step, and who should be involved, and how do we go about it?
Okay. Another good question. The fortunate thing is that the steps have been taken, and they are being taken. And I'll sort of give you a backstory. And the backstory is maybe like 18 months ago, over 18 months ago, significant research was done on what problems do we face, not just in Nigeria, but on the African continent. Because you see, unfortunately, the same pattern being repeated in all democracies across the continent. So there is an African problem that we need to address. And the research that was done by Dr. Obiesekwesili about 18 months ago. She's 6 months research. She was in Berlin at the Robert Bosch Academy School Institute. And over those 6 months, she paid attention to what is wrong, what is the problem. And she was able to identify through research, not through emotions, but research that went deep, that there were 3 major issues. And it's what she's now termed monopolistic democracy. And what is that? You have issues with, on the demand side, the supply side, and the regulatory side. What's the demand side? We as citizens, are we placing the right demand on our leadership? So we have an electorate that is not as well educated as it should be, that is not empowered as it should be, and it's not engaged. So what do we have? On election day, we have one of the lowest voting statistics on the continent, if not in the world. I think elections recently in Ghana, 77% of the voters, there was voter turnout. In Nigeria, we're in between 35 and 40%, if on a good day. So it's really low. So the first thing that our research showed that we needed to ensure that we begin to educate, empower our electorate so that they can engage. That's the first step. The second problem that the research showed was the problem with leadership. And again, what I said, selfish, self-centered, and not serving the electorate. So we don't serve, we take. The third problem is at the regulatory end, and that is our constitution and our electoral law. We need constitutional reform and we need electoral reform. And the good news, that process has started. And recently, in the last 1 month, there's been a lot of talk, and National Assembly has put forward constitutional reform steps. The problem with what they're doing now, unfortunately, is that, again, you're not addressing the problems at the root.
At the roots.
Yes. So it's not so much constitutional reform, changing the current constitution. We think we need a new constitution.
Wow.
Yes.
Now, it is one thing.
And that's a big thing.
It's a big thing, of course.
Subject.
It's a big one.
And it's not a subject, it's not something that's going to happen in a few weeks or a few months. We've got to be dogged, and it's going to take a few years.
And painstaking as well. Now, the point there is,
good point.
It is one thing to have or to change the constitution. It's another thing to have what they call constitutionalism that has to do with the spirit of the Constitution, the understanding, the value of the Constitution, and the attitude to the Constitution and holding it. Now, when you said something earlier that the challenge is leadership, leadership, leadership. Now, let's come to the issue of qualities of leaders.
Yeah.
Because if you say that we have this issue not just in Nigeria, but on the African continent, we can call names of countries, examples of different administrations from one country to another on the African continent. We have the same, that's not to say we don't have the same challenges in their own peculiarities across other continents, but
and in recent times, last
no, of course.
Aren't you relieved that we're not the only ones that have the problem? Oh my God! I'm thinking.
But what should be anyone who is going into politics or who is aspiring to be a leader in that context? What are the ingredients? What are the things that the person should have or must have before he gets there?
I love that question, and I'll tell you why. To keep it simple, there are 3 C's that are key to great leadership. And in Nigeria, we have downplayed those 3 C's. What are they? The first, character. And as I mentioned that word, character, I will leave your imagination to think about what's the quality of the leadership, character in terms of integrity, in terms of honesty, in terms of kindness, in terms of compassion. What is the character of our leadership?
Openness and being
transparency.
Exactly.
Accountability. I'm mentioning all these positive words. And immediately your mind goes to, oh my word, what's the yes? Okay. So character.
And I can imagine people who are watching us, you just struck the chord there.
Thank you. Then the second C, competence. What's the competent quotient of our leaders? Anybody can run for office. You don't have to know anything. I'm so sorry. You don't have to know much, because most people know something. But you don't have to know much. There's nowhere in the developed nations that anybody wakes up and says, I'm running for office. Yeah. There is a process of acquiring knowledge.
Building capacity.
Skills, values. Right. You are tested right at the early stage from school. You have certain leadership qualities that are demonstrated. Members of parliament to run for office in the United Kingdom, you face a strict a committee that will evaluate your competence, evaluate your values. And unless you pass through that committee and they say, yes, you can't run for office. Ours, anybody can run for office. There's a problem with that. We need to raise the bar. So the second C is competence. The third is capacity. Not everybody can execute. We think execution is simple. It's not. It's a skill that you acquire. So if you don't have a track record of execution at a community level, in school, why do you think you can become a chairman of a local government or a governor and you think you can execute? I've served at least 2 full ministers and 2 ministers of state, 4 altogether. Most of them, I will not tell you when, because then you will know who I'm talking about. But they couldn't execute. They sat there, they were confused. I won't mention names. I was alarmed, and I knew we were in trouble. So that made me start thinking, what enables individuals called ministers? Why do some fail and why do some succeed? The problem is lack of execution and the knowledge and understanding of that. So character, competence, and capacity. And if you wanted to push it, even understanding compassion. Our leaders are not sufficiently compassionate. You have to have compassion to want to solve a problem. You see poverty and you walk past it and it doesn't do anything to you. There's a problem. You have the opportunity, but you look at the resources available and what do? You acquire those resources instead of using it to serve your people. There's a problem there.
And compassion is the fountain that fuels your passion to help and assist here and there.
And keeps you dogged.
Exactly.
Keeps you undaunted. And keeps you focused.
Now, let's come to the project now, Fix Politics.
Yes.
I want us to be a little more practical and then see how our experiences over time. You know, the moment, some of the challenges we have sometimes, if someone comes from anywhere in the country and he wants to fix or she wants to fix an issue, that a lot of times there are some people who will sit down and try to question, where is she from? And what is the agenda here? Are we looking towards another election? Does he or she have an ambition? You know, questions like that.
Oh, yes.
You know, so the issue there, the messenger becomes the topic instead of the message.
Yes.
Talk to us from that window. What does Fix Politics stand here to address?
You remember I said at the beginning, Fix Politics is rooted in what? Deep-seated research. So it's not emotions, it's not I think.
Feeling.
It's not feeling, it's what the evidence, what the research revealed, right? Then from there, we presented the research to intelligent, right-minded individuals who are sick and tired of the condition of Nigeria. I said, we have to do something about it. They were invited. You didn't need to be a rocket science to know that, wow, there's something here. And that something is what has evolved into 3 work-study groups. Remember I said there were 3 problems. There's a work-study group addressing each of those problems. So the first work-study group is looking at them engaging, empowering, educating the electorate. The second work-study group is the School of Politics, Policy and Governance. That is the beginning of that second work-study group, because what we want to create is a pipeline for public leadership. We want to raise a disruptive class of public leaders who are values-driven. And that's what, so it's not just even looking at that school. We have plans of looking at the civil service. How can we improve the quality of civil servants? Then we're going to even go further in due course and say, how can we raise children from school to have an understanding of how to be a good patriotic citizen and serve their nation and run for office and be good leaders? So we're looking at our curriculum in due course. And then the third is constitutional reform. There is a work-study group for that. So in very practical terms, using your words, we have initiatives. Each one of these work-study groups has key initiatives that are going to address each of the problems that we have highlighted. So people are now working in the trenches, and we're growing in numbers. It's a platform. And this is giving different organizations that have been doing effective work, strong work, in the, like, enough is enough.
Exactly.
Yeah, you know, enough. Budget. Future Africa.
Yeah.
With different women groups, they're all on this platform of Fix Politics. So it's not a solo effort, because we all realize that when you work solo, you have minimal impact. But when you form a collaborative whole, you're stronger together, you're more powerful, and you're more effective. Fix Politics is a platform. It's not about you, me, or any individual. It's a platform that we're saying, come, let's fix politics together. Because you know why? You know, I mentioned about education, serving ministers. After working in education reform, I've been working in education reform for the last 12 years, right? Wow. And there's an education reform team, so they're fixing education. Then there's another team that is trying to fix health. Suddenly, 2 years ago, it dawned on me that, you know what? We can be doing all this work, but if we don't fix politics, we're taking two steps forward.
That's a superstructure.
Yes,
now,
that is what
very good.
Carries the nation.
Great. So bringing it to politics now, that wields a lot of influence on how successful all of these sectors are.
Yes.
How do we have a robust buy-in into either the individuals or the institutions that are, you know, constitutionally responsible for, like you talk about education, like you talk about health. Yes. There are other sectors like that. How do we have their buy-in so that what you are doing can rub off, not just rub off, can be the center point and become the Bible or the Quran by which they can sprout from and succeed for the betterment of Nigeria? You
know, I mentioned that the pipeline. What does a pipe do? You push things through a pipe, like water.
Yeah.
And what do? You can water host different gardens. We're creating a pipeline, a base for raising a new class of political leaders. And there'll be leaders that will go into these different spheres. Because when you run for office, you can become a minister. When you run for office, you can be a chairman of a local government. When you run for office, you're a governor. So once you have the knowledge that we're going to impart, and honestly, the school is amazing. Just going through, I'm going to encourage everyone listening to me, just go to our website and check out the prospectus. We have 7 thematic groups for knowledge base. We've got international, global, national facilitators. Amazing lecturers are coming. It's in a class of its own, but it's not so much talking about the school, but what will happen to people who go through our 6 months program. At the end, you're going to have the knowledge, the skills, and the value to be a competent leader that can take any nation, not just Nigeria, forward. And so this is not even just about Nigeria. We have our universal modules and Nigeria-specific modules. So we want to be able to go to Kenya, and the universal modules will stand, like gravity. Gravity is not different in Kenya, it's not different in Nigeria. So our universal modules will stand in Kenya, will stand in South Africa. Then we will design their own specific modules that will address their own
unique issues.
Like we have our own unique issues. So in taking those practical steps, you go through those 6 months, you cannot remain the same. And our plan is that we're going to have at least 500 people going through the school every 6 months, so that over a period of time, you've raised a critical mass of between 3,000, 5,000, 10,000 leaders thinking differently and forming a network that will keep them focused, keep them accountable. Because you can go through school and then nobody knows what you're doing when they're not watching.
Okay, just the last question before we go. The issues of funding is there.
Yes.
And if you're going to keep this pipeline, like you said, so you can water and nurture,
different sectors.
Different sectors. I wonder what the issue of funding is, if you have that guarantee already, or what's the strategy to ensure that you keep this project going?
Let me ask you, have you been in any startup where there's guaranteed?
in Nigeria, we can pray, and then a lot of things can happen.
You have to also work. No, but on a serious note, honestly, what has happened with fixed politics and the school of politics, policy, and governance is that we have found incredible favor. Yeah. It's almost as if this is this is an idea that the time has come for. Yeah.
Exactly.
So we find that we don't have to.
You don't struggle.
They don't struggle. And we have amazing partners.
Okay.
So we have the Hertie School of Governance in Berlin, in Germany. Okay. And they've been amazing. GIZ funded the technical advisory relationship that we're enjoying, so that we're the first. Can you imagine? It was an international organization that was the first to seed us money that enabled us to put together a lot of what we're doing that you're going to now see in the school. We worked internally with people who were professionals in curriculum development, and the Hertie School provided their technical advice and giving us strategy, giving us a better understanding of what we need to do. And then, just as we thought, oh, this couldn't get better, Nexford is giving us the learning management system.
All right.
So we've got funding. That's the question. That's the answer. I thoroughly enjoyed talking to you. And I can go on and on and on.
We have so much to talk about.
I'm excited.
Yeah. But what we'll do is, because the point there is, when it comes to politics, like you say, it's a leadership issue. And we need it at every strata of life.
Yes.
So there'll be time for us to talk about this as we get along, so that we keep putting this on the front burner. Thank you so much, Alera.
You're most welcome, Mike.
I really enjoyed talking with you.
Same here. Same here. And I
Thank you very much.
Actually.
Thank you very much. Thank you, and have a great day.